महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं यत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। So we start again with the promise divine. I am rising up this nation to send forth my word. This we almost every day we forget. That is why I every day repeat it. That India's independence is something very peculiar when we compare the history of the independence of other nations. For other nations, it is an ascent. For India, it is a descent. When something comes from above, it is a descent. And here it is a descent. I am giving it. But with a purpose. And what is that? It is for the world and not for themselves that they arise. Unfortunately, we never think deeply about these two lines. These two lines are the crux of Sri Aurobindo's life, which is still being continued, and he has got physical immortality. So it is for the world and not for themselves that they arise. And how and what they should do is the life of Sri Aurobindo. But that doesn't mean it is only Sri Aurobindo's life, it is our life also. If you are studying engineering, you will be an engineer. If you are studying to become a doctor, you are a doctor. If you are studying Sri Aurobindo, you are Sri Aurobindo. It is simple as that. But you can't become a doctor in a day or two. You can't become an engineer in a day or two. You can't become Sri Aurobindo in a day or two. You can write it in brackets. You write your name in brackets, you write Sri Aurobindo, there is nothing wrong in it. So this is what is most important aspect is the three madnesses of Aurobindo must govern us also. We should also become mad like him. The first madness is, if you believe that there is a God, do you really want to see him? Do you really want to talk with him? Do you want his guidance? All of us believe in God, but we don't want his guidance. We never even ask him to come because we are worried what he may say. So that is, all life is yoga, must be oriented towards the divine. The next is, whatever you have, minimum for you, maximum for the world. Not maximum to India, not maximum to your state. The maximum is for the world. And whatever you earn, the minimum you keep it. And the rest is for others. This we always forget. It is for the world and not for themselves that they arise. I am giving them freedom for the service of the world. I say this is the descent. And technically, if you can understand the implications of it, it is a guarantee of supramental descent. Next slide. Between us and rest of the existence. Now, we come to a very difficult aspect of the yoga, where we have to synthesize the three yogas, the yoga of works, the yoga of devotion or aspiration, or the yoga of creative actions, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. And all these must be synthesized with the help of Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga. So this is our first goal. And the next aspect which we have to always remember is, even in science, it is the theory which precedes the practicals. But unfortunately, in yoga, we do the practice without knowing the theory. In all religions, not only in yoga, in any religion you say the ritual is given importance. And we don't know why that particular ritual is being practiced in such a way. Almost in yoga, we forget the theoretical aspect. And any science to develop, first you must have a theoretical basis. That is why we are reading it in such a depth. But now today, I am going to skip some slides. But when I am skipping it, I am going to give you the central idea. And you always try to keep these slides with you. I think the printouts are coming. And you always try to study with the hints that I am going to give. But naturally, my hint is only a hint. What you understand is yours. What I understand is mine. That is the beauty of integral yoga. So, in this slide, number 139, 37. That is one thing. Acha. Okay. The action of the secret world forces, mind forces, life forces, and subtle physical forces. This is what we have to understand first. You are living, okay. You have a physical body, you have a vital body, you have a mental body. But your physical body is in the physical world. Your vital body is in the vital world. Your mental body is in the mental world. All of our bodies have been so developed by our Jivatma that it can mold itself and react to the secret world forces, mind forces, life forces, subtle physical forces. Of this we should be aware of. This is what we should practice when we say all life is yoga. Which type of force is influencing you just now? Is it a world force, a mind force, a life force, or a subtle physical forces? So these distinctions between the various forces you should be aware of. For example, when we are now here, the sun's radiations are affecting us, the electrical rays are affecting us, the tube light and the special focus light vibrations are affecting this room, and your own mind vibrations are there. Every mind vibration different from each other, even though they are directed to the same study of synthesis of yoga. So are we aware of these forces? And being aware of these forces is the first step of yoga. What nature or scientists do, they don't create any new force. They understand a force, they develop their laws and apply it. So what we are going to do? We are going now to understand the mind force, the vital force, and the physicality force, if I can use it. I don't want to say it as a physical force, because physical force is a generally physical force, a materialistic force. And when I say physicality, the mind and desire force working together dominate the physical body. So physicality is, in one sense, your desire and mind working together. Am I clear? So this is what we are going to read now. When we say the yoga of knowledge, we are studying the laws of the mind. And in it we have two. We have the capital M and the Chaitya Purusha. You have the mind, and just below it we have the Chaitya Purusha. these, the forces, the powers, the beings in the mental plane, just as there are beings in the physical plane, there are beings in the mental plane also whom we call God, or gods or goddesses or whatever you call them. So these mind forces is what we learn by the yoga of knowledge. You try to understand that whenever you are reading about the yoga of knowledge, you are reading a science of the mind, the powers of the mind, which also includes your Chaitya Purusha, or your psychic being, who is a part of the mind. So these are the four things. The materialistic physical body has been thoroughly understood by the doctors. Every part of our body is known by the doctors. And they can control it, they can change the heart, they can change any part of your body. So what has happened is, we know the physical forces, but not the subtle physical forces. And this subtle physical force is the Pranamaya Kosha, which is controlled by the life forces. So between life forces and physical forces is the subtle physical forces, a link between matter and desire. And then you have the mind forces. So you remember, this force is yoga of knowledge, Jnana Yoga. This force, life forces come, this subtle part of it, subtle part of physical forces is known as the Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, devotion. And the physical forces is, of course, is the Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga. So what we are reading is how your evolution is controlled by these three, by your physical actions, by your desires, by your thoughts. If you know the evolution, and you remember when we are talking about the evolution, we are talking about millenniums, not only a few years or 100 years. We go for thousands of years. That is what Yuga is. And unfortunately, we do not even think about the next day's evolution in ourselves. We think about the evolution in the promotion or in some other way we want to develop. This you please be very clear when we are talking about the yogas. Jnana Yoga means you are understanding the laws of mind, which also includes the psychic being, which will help you to understand, to grow in the evolution. This is the stress we should give when you are reading this chapter. You don't try to read it as something hazy. There is nothing hazy in it. You know, even uncertainty is a law physically. In science, we read about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and how science can be uncertain, but it is a principle there. We read it and we give 20 marks to the student who writes the equation correctly. So similarly, you may be feeling a bit hazy, and I will see that you will feel it really hazy because I am going to skip some slides. But it won't be hazy if you can remember this point. When you are reading about the Jnana Yoga, you should know to apply your mind forces to your day-to-day life and speed up your evolution. If you can't do it, you should do it. You should study for that. That is where the theory becomes important. Right? So thoughts, Jnana Yoga, desires, Bhakti Yoga, actions, Karma Yoga. Next. Now, we are talking about the mind, the vital body, and the physical body. But again, we should always remember that even though you think you are thinking, you are desiring, and you are acting, really speaking, you are a helpless creature in the descending powers that come from the higher planes. The original determinants of things are here, and if they were called down in their fullness, could altogether alter the whole make and economy of the life in the material universe. So not only it is the mental powers that descend, and when I say the mental powers, I don't mean only your mind's powers. There is a mental plane which works. The powers of the mind work in the mental plane in which your Manomaya Purusha is a part. We are not aware of those powers. Similarly, in your Pranamaya Purusha, the entire vital plane forces act. Are you aware of it? You are only aware of your desires, your thoughts. So this is the stress. The secretly, and from there, secretly descend influences, descending I think it should be, powers, touches, which are the original determinants of things. Now am I able to convey what I am trying to tell? You are aware of the Manomaya Purusha, you are aware of the Pranamaya Purusha, you are aware of the Annamaya Purusha. Is this clear? But these are also dual in nature. One is the outer Annamaya Purusha and the other is the inner Annamaya Purusha. One is the outer Pranamaya Purusha and the other is the inner Pranamaya Purusha. And the other is the outer Manomaya Purusha and the inner Manomaya Purusha, the surface being. We individuals are aware only of the external Purusha. If we can look in, tremendous powers are there, because the outer being is controlled only by the physical powers. But the moment you look in, what happens? All these powers, and from nowhere, which if you put the comma after W becomes now here, is it not? Nowhere the powers are coming. But where are they? Now here. Just a shift in the comma. That is what this slide is telling for you to understand. You try to understand that we are talking of a real forces, real powers. There is nothing hazy in it. There is nothing theoretical in it. There is nothing philosophical in it. It is a pure science, as good a science as chemistry is, physics is, etc., etc. Next. Now, two things may happen. Once you go in, you can be so lured by the different powers and glories that come before your eyes unasked, that you may do not want to come back again to this world. Many scientists live like that. Many ascetics live like that. Many successful persons are only aware of their inner lives. They are not at all aware of their outer lives. And that is why sometimes it is said that all genius are mad people. And sometimes the psychologists accept that also. But they are not mad. What is actually happening is they have become a part of these powerful vibrations which a common man cannot vibrate to. Am I clear? Next. Whoever is able to detect and renounce those obscuring agencies now. Yes?
I think that's like the previous one that you showed.
Show it again.
Previous to that, about 5-6 slides have been left out.
No, not yet. What I have left, you will get it with a square brackets. I have indicated them with square brackets. I was very particular about that because the matter is important, but the time is not. Therefore, I am giving you the gist of it, how you should look at it. Whenever you read about Jnana Yoga, what are you reading? The laws of thought, power, control. That is the difference between a yogi and a normal man. A normal man does not know the science behind the thoughts. So when you are studying the Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, you understand Karma Yoga, physical laws, but not physical laws. We say the Annamaya Purusha's laws and Annamaya plane's laws. And then we have the Pranamaya Purusha and the Pranamaya plane laws. with sometimes Aurobindo adds a word occult plane, occult vital plane, occult mental plane. But let us not try to first now understand where does he differentiate between an occult pranamaya plane and a pranamaya plane, because we don't want to go into the subtleties. But whenever you see Sri Aurobindo using a word, you understand it is coming from the truth force, and it is the only word which can be placed there. You can't even place another identical word there, you remember that. Whether you are convinced about it or not is something else. That is why in the slides also, where I have eliminated the slides for today's discussion, I have put a square brackets. But you can understand it if you follow these guidelines. So whoever is able to detect and renounce those obscuring agencies, what are the obscuring agencies? The Annamaya Purusha is the obscuring agency. The physical body is not an obscuring agency. The Pranamaya Purusha is the obscuring agency. The Manomaya Purusha is an obscuring agency, because though he belongs to those worlds, he is not aware of those worlds. We are only aware of the physical concept. We are not aware of the Pranamaya world. We are not aware of the mental world. Not as a world, we are aware of the thoughts. You are able to understand the difference. Just as we are moving here in this physical world from Bangalore to Hyderabad to America or somewhere else or to moon, similarly you can move in the Pranamaya world. Similarly, exactly like that. There is a Pranamaya Bangalore, no doubt about it. And there is a Manomaya Bangalore, no doubt about it. But can you understand it? Just now, quantum chemistry is trying to understand it, where it says there are not one universe but many universes, and you can shift from one universe to another universe. Science is reaching there. Next, chapter 7. This is the title you try to understand. Again I said, even this title is supramental words. When I mean with that, what I mean is, you can't have another title. The title is the only and the only apt title for this chapter. So try to understand the standards of conduct and spiritual freedom. What does it mean? When you conduct yourself, that means when you act yourself, the freedom you get depends upon the standards you have of that particular activity. Am I clear about that? So even the title itself gives you the whole what he is going to tell. Next slide. Whenever we formulate a law, we ignore the indivisible totality of the cosmic movement. Is it not? Understood? Next slide. Out. But since the perfection is progressive, evolution in time, good and evil are also shifting quantities. Now when you have a behavior pattern, a conduct, what is the standard? If it is good, you vote for it. If it is evil, you will not vote for it. Even though you may helplessly, with Duryodhana, say, Janami dharmam nachame pravrittihi. I know what is right, but I can't. But I know what is wrong, but nachame nivritti. Probably we are in tune with him. But here, a shifting quantity, even what is right at a particular level of consciousness becomes wrong at a different level of consciousness. So what is right and what is wrong must be defined in the world you are, what is good for you, on which side you are. Page 192. There are 4 main standards of human conduct. This you remember. These 4 latter become our integral yoga's 4 steps. The first is personal need, preference and desire. That is exactly how we live. And remember, the section we are reading is the yoga of divine works. So when we are reading the divine works, what are we supposed to gather? The laws of action, how you are supposed to act. So here he is giving you the 4 basic principles. One type of action is where you are the sole beneficiary. So you become important, the others are not important. The second, the law of the good of the collectivity. You are living in the society. Even though you want something, you are controlled by the social norms or family norms. So from a personal conduct, you have developed into a group relationship. A family is nothing but a group relationship. A society is nothing but a bigger group relationship. And the continents, a bigger relationships. And the planet, the only one relationship which you can have. Third is the ideal ethic. Now, this ideal ethic is what in Patanjali Yoga Sutras are known as the Maha Niyama, Mahavrata. The ideal ethic is beyond time and space. You have to follow it everywhere, anywhere. You must be knowing this. One Mahavrata, the ideal ethic, was the greatest exponent of that was Ahimsa, Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. How Ahimsa in day-to-day work can give you independence to a nation. Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Satya, Aparigraha. Huh? No, that's Niyamas. I'm talking about the Yamas. Satya, Brahmacharya, Ahimsa, Aparigraha and Asteya. You remember these 5. These are going to be very important for us. And of course, the highest divine law where you are not at all worried about what you are supposed to do. A pen never decides what it has to write. Is it not? In whichever hand it is, it will write. If it is in the hand of a small child, okay. If it is in the hand of the Nobel Prize winner, okay. For it is neither unhappy when it is with a child, nor it goes into ecstasy when it is in the hands of a Nobel Prize winner. If you can make your instrument like that, what are your instruments? These 3 bodies, the mental body, the vital body and the physical body. If you can be of such a nature where you are just not present, but the individuality is present. It is not that you are dead. It is not that you have become unreactive. It is not that you have become tamasic. The only thing is you are just an instrument. And the moment you become an instrument, the divine works starts. You even don't know what is a divine law. You need not know it. But unhappily, until you rise that standard, these 3 must be followed. You just can't say I have become tuned to the divine, because with your deficiencies, with the defects that are already inherent in us, if the divine power comes, we will die. Even when Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was induced into the state of Samadhi, his guru was afraid that he may die. Such a pure man. You can understand the purity of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. His asteya, aparigraha, was so great that once he was sick, and just behind Dakshineshwar was the homeopathy doctor's house. So Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa went there and asked for the medicine. The doctor was not there. And the compounder said that the doctor will come back after 2 or 3 days. Then what to do? He said, okay, you come after 3 days and take the medicine for 3 days. And he gave him 3 packets of medicine. Do you know what happened? He couldn't come out of the house because his mind became so confused. He couldn't find the way. And do you know where that house was? In Dakshineshwar garden. where Ramakrishna used to live, just about 300 to 400 yards. What happened, can you understand now? He was given a medicine not for one day, but for 3 days. So what is the ideal ethic that is broken there? Aparigraha. You take only for this day. You have taken it for the next day, and that also a medicine when the doctor was not present. You read it. God lived with them. That is the book in which I have read this story. They lived with God and God lived with them. There are 2 volumes of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's devotees. That is the level of apagriha to be practiced, and then you can think of practicing integral yoga. Not before that. The 4 are clear now: personal, family and social. Permanent ethic, the example of aparigraha of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And then of course the highest divine, he is the example. How the divine works and how the ethic works. You see the gradation between Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and. So for all our great people in India, there is a link, because nature never repeats itself, you remember it. Even in twins, their thumb impressions differ. And do you think that all these great souls have the same type of life? No. They are different chapters in yoga. And you should know where to place them where. Next. The divine manifests himself in 2 ways, Vyashti and Samishti. This is where the present sense of living is lacking. Even though they live in multi-storied flats, the individual families are also become individualized. Don't live a Vyashti life. But nature is forcing you to live in flats. If you can understand, all life becomes yoga in this way. You have to mold your activities. If you are living in a multi-storied building, and if even does not know who is living just by the side of you, that means the forces, the world forces, which are forcing you to live in a multi-flat have failed. And you remember, nature cannot fail. What it can do is, it can remold you, breaking you and beating you. So instead of getting beaten up by nature, try to understand what is Vyashti and Samishti. Man in him has 2 distinct master impulses: individualistic, communal, a personal life and a social life, a personal motive of conduct and a social motive of conduct. Clear? Next. Jump. Against this danger of suppression and immobilization, nature in the individual reacts. Now what happens? You try to understand. I have an individual life. I have a social life. The social life tries to control your emotions and desires and thoughts so that you will not misuse them. But you can use them for your benefit if you do not disturb the other man, if you don't create a himsa in other man. But what happens if you are only the mental body, the vital body and the physical body, the social laws would have been all right. You have your own physical, astral and mental bodies. The other man, he's got his. I will put Chaitya Purusha for all these 3. Is it okay? When I say Chaitya Purusha, can you remember that I am talking about the 3 Purushas in one? So you have your Chaitya Purusha, I have my Chaitya Purusha, and the entire society has got its own separate Chaitya Purushas. And the laws of the society are in such way developed that you can have your personal satisfaction, but you cannot harm others. If you harm others, your personal conduct, your freedom is gone. But think about the planes in which the different bodies of the Chaitya Purusha are. Just as your Annamaya Purusha is here, you have a Pranamaya Purusha in the vital plane, Manomaya Purusha in the mental plane, and there you have your own rules, your own societies, and they are at a higher plane than this plane. Then what happens? The individual revolts, and that revolt may be something which we don't like, just as now what is happening, or he may become an ascetic. And that is why we find in the history of yoga a very savage man like Ratnakar becoming a very great ascetic, because it is a revolt. The revolt was in another form, the revolt was in another form. And now do you understand why Sri Aurobindo wanted his vision that this science must go to the world? Because if it doesn't go to the world will become a criminal society as it is happening now, because it doesn't have an ideal. And asceticism is not an ideal. It is the ideal of the past. 5,000 years ago, renunciation was okay, but not now. Can you understand what word we have to take to the world? Next. The brackets are gone. You remember these three: love, truth, and justice. These words, you go on meditating every day. I don't know whether you have started writing the diary or not, but you have to do it. Just hearing will never help. So you meditate on these three words: what is love, what is truth, and what is justice. Love, of course, dominates the vital plane, truth dominates the mental plane, and justice dominates the physical plane. So these three names are the crystallized power sources. So whenever you want to know what you are doing in the physical plane is right or wrong, think about the word justice. If you want to know what you are doing in your desire plane, bhakti yoga, think about the word love. And if you want to know what is correct in the mental plane, it is the truth. And this, in samadhi, we will deal more with these three words. And if I forget to tell about it, please remind me. Nyaya, physical plane; prema, vital plane; truth, mental plane. And these single words denote the entire knowledge. Just as if you say MA English, we know you are a master of English. Those two words is enough to know that you know everything about English. Is it not? Similarly, when you know love, you know the yoga of bhakti. If you know nyaya, justice, you know the divine works yoga, karma yoga. And if you know truth, what is it you know? You know the jnana yoga.
You kindly elaborate on justice aspect.
Yes. Come back, Amma. Right. What is justice actually? Suppose I am eating and I am asked to do justice in eating. We use that word, na? What do you mean by that? Eat more or eat less or?
Necessary and sufficient.
That is nyaya. In every level in the physical plane, whatever you do. Suppose I just balance it here. At the center of gravity, there is justice. The moment the center of gravity is gone, it can't stay there. It falls down. Right?
What is that? Sanskrit word?
Nyaya. Nyaya. There is a darshan there as Nyaya darshan. There are Shat darshanas in which that Nyaya darshan is a very important thing for karma yoga. Right? Okay? Now, just as you know that the higher includes the lower. This is a fact throughout the universe. If you have 10 rupees, it means, if you say 10, it means 9 is included there. If you say 100, it means 90 is also there. The higher includes the lower. Therefore, if you can know the laws of the mind, naturally you will be knowing also the laws of the vital plane as well as the physical plane. So that is what he means, that once you can go to the higher plane beyond mind, supramental level, you need not even know and understand the laws of the mind. So it seems to us that, okay, why should I then worry about these laws of justice, love and truth? I can just go to the supramental plane and see that includes all. Yes, it is right. But can you go to the supramental plane, or do you hallucinate that you are going into the supramental plane? That is more important. We can't control our own physical body. We can't control our own desires. We can't control our own thoughts. And you say, if the supramental truth descends on you, what will happen? Suppose there is a lot of obstructions and the power comes. What happens? You break. But nature knows. So even you say that you are practicing supramental devotion, it says, okay, you sleep well. Next. This is a mantra. Supramental and spiritual life cannot be turned into a mental ideal. So I leave it at that, because you just understand that whatever you may talk about supramental descent, actually it cannot be captured in words. But then why did Sri Aurobindo write about it? Because you have to read in between the lines. It is not the words that are ucharya. That is why in Sanskrit, the mantra is given a chandas. Do you know what chandas means really? That which gives a achadana. Achadana means a covering. So the words are a covering for truth. But that doesn't disturb us. Don't worry about it, because you can understand, because always words are a achadana for truth. They are a chandas for truth. That is why in Vedic literature, you are told what type of chandas it is, what type of covering it is, for what type of force, that is Devata, and given by whom, discovered by whom, that is Rishi. So we always have for the forces a Rishi, Devata and Chandas. Rishi means one who has discovered the law. Devata is the force, and Chandas is the, you can say, the container in which that force is carried. Next, in the wherever I have given these colors, they are very important, very, very important in the slides. In the actual state of humanity, it is the individual who must climb to this height as a pioneer and a percussor. And now when we are talking about these higher levels of mind power, mind itself is very powerful, and supermind naturally more powerful than that. And we wanted to bring it down. Now then what you have to do? You must become a pioneer and a percussor. So that is what is our duty. Understand these three yogas very clearly: the yoga of actions, the yoga of knowledge, and the yoga of bhakti. And try and be very, very, very clear that if you know the yoga, you should control that plane. And if you are not able to control that plane, that means you have not studied the yoga. You read it and then practice it. Don't go directly and practice it. You read, study, understand the laws and then apply them. All sadhana is application of the formulas. Right. Now, this is our goal. In the words of Sri Aurobindo, page 207. But if a collectivity or group could be formed of those who had reached the supramental perfection, there indeed some divine creation could take shape. The operating word is could. Could means it may, depending upon our exertions. A new earth could descend, that would be a new heaven. A world of supramental light could be created amidst the receding darkness of this terrestrial ignorance. The time is very, very, very ripe. People are becoming criminals. Everyone in his own way is a criminal in my eyes. Now these criminals go into the bhakti yoga and become ascetics. Ascetics, renunciation, and that is wrong. That period where either you become a criminal or an ascetic is gone. Now there must be a integration, and that integration is possible only when some people have the audacity, the dareness, the courage, the faith, and they should work in a group. That is what a collectivity. Then the heaven, a new world will descend, and it will come because the truth has descended. The only thing is, we have not built the required body. If you can say the truth Purusha, just as the Manomay Purusha, if you can build the truth Purusha, Satya Purusha, then that Satya Purusha can act for the supramental world. Am I clear? And that in Vedas and Upanishads is called as the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And now the Vijnana, the science is dominating, no doubt about it. But the science has dominating only the physicality. On the planet Earth, the physical planet, the atom has been shattered. But if you shatter the vitality atom, if you shatter the Manomaya atom, can you know what happens? And the atom bomb is a proof that it is possible. Next. Now, we have known how to conduct ourselves. How should we conduct? By knowing the laws of the physical plane. The scientists have already done it. We should know the laws of the vital plane and the laws of the mental plane and work along with it. And when we work like this, we are practicing Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. But in all these three yogas, the Sankalpa is the most important, the will. Until and unless you want really to do it, you will not do it. So how to develop that will, that Sankalpa? And one of the Siddhis is known as Sankalpa Siddhi. Sankalpa Siddhi means whatever he desires happens. So this is what we are trying to understand, to develop the supreme will for doing divine actions. We are reading Karma Yoga, don't forget it. You know the heading, na? The heading of this section is the Yoga of the Divine Works. We are reading about the Karma Yoga, not a physical Karma Yoga, but a yoga where the divine law rules. In that, abandoning all dharmas, all principles and laws and rules of conduct, take refuge in me alone. This is the formula, single formula, the formula of surrender. No dharmas, no preconceived notions, nothing. You just be an instrument to the higher power. Your thoughts must be controlled by that higher power. Your desires must be controlled by your higher power. Your actions must be controlled by the higher power, what we call the divine. Now, it seems very difficult, but if you are sincere and honest, its application is very, very easy. At present, suppose a thought comes to me that I have to go to Sri Aurobindo Society and talk about synthesis of yoga. Now, is it a divine thought or an egoistic thought?
Depends on the motive.
Certainly it is egoistic. Certainly, because I say, I will finish it, I will do this, I am preparing the slides, I am saying. You are understanding it? Very, very subtle difference. Very, very subtle difference between a real surrender and a non-surrender. And now when I come here, suppose somebody says, Master Garu, yesterday what you taught was just Greek and Latin. And now I should be happy that I know 2 more languages. That I know Greek and Latin. Or I may be unhappy that you didn't understand. Then, is it divine works? Suppose I am unhappy with that statement. Is it divine works? No. So it is very easy to know whether we have surrendered or not. And until and unless you have surrendered, the yoga of divine works cannot be accomplished. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masu. In that level, whatever you do is right. But if even a iota of you thinking, you desiring and you acting is there, you have to perfect your bodies. And there you have to practice these 3 yogas, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga in an integrated way. Next. There are 3 steps for this where you can go into the divine works, the yoga of divine works. At the bottom of the bodily life, enslaved to the pressure of the necessity of desire, very clear. In the middle, the mental, higher emotional, psychic rule that feels after greater interest, aspirations and experiences. I don't think you need any explanation for this. Next. Next slide. Third, at the summits, first a deeper psychic and spiritual state. First time when you enter into the yogic level, it is the peace that descends on you. That is why in every Upanishad or in our chanting we say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We just utter it, we don't understand what peace is, what Shanti is. Once Einstein was asked, what is peace? He said, you don't know it. It is very simple, it is the interval between 2 wars. And we call it peace. Or you can say preparation for wars. Real Shanti, what the Upanishads meant was the inner silence, where the thoughts are finished. There are no thoughts. And if you have no thoughts, you have no desires. And if you have no desire, you have no motivation to move your physical body, then which will move you? The divine. So this Shanti, Shanti, Shanti has just become a parrot-like utterance. Whenever you say Shanti, 3 times it means be still, no thoughts. Be still, no desires. Be still, the physical body will not move of its own accord because of the psychic being. Then the supramental eternal consciousness in which all our aspirations and seekings discover their own intimate significance. So be still, that is what you should practice in your daily meditations. And you remember, you cannot have a better place than the meditation place. I have already explained you why. The vibrations are important, and you cannot get a better vibration than Sri Aurobindo, take it from me, even though I have many masters. But I can understand what Sri Aurobindo is. So don't meditate in your houses. That collectivity is required. And if you cannot sacrifice 1 hour's journey every day to come here and meditate, what type of integral sadhaka you are, I can't understand. Next. The social law, it is just repeating, the social law in which the ego is subjected in order that it may learn discipline by subordination to a wider collective ego. You understand that line? why you are in a society is our ego is always curbed. The officer says, comes at 8 o'clock, you don't want to go there. But you have to go there. You don't want to is your ego. You have to go there is the subordination. This subordination to the external collectivity, if you can change it to the supermind, that is the turn of consciousness which you have to do. You are a subordinate, no doubt, but you are a subordinate to the social laws. Become subordinate to the divine laws. But how can the divine descend? It has already descended. Because there is a supramental world in you, therefore you could form a psychic being. Until that Satchit Anand and supermind are there, you cannot come down to the lower levels. The lower levels are a continuation of the higher levels. So the only thing is, if the lower level rules are left behind, the upper automatically descends. Clear? Next. Just a slide. Yajya jatarati sreshtaha tatta devayotaro jana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate. This is the problem where we should be careful. Even though you do not have any need to practice certain laws or meditations or devotional activities, sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate. Because the society looks to you and it will copy you. So you should not disturb their peace. If they can't understand these high levels, talk to them of something level and give them the correct perspective of doing from their level. Jai Gurudev. It is 7.